Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. I am back for your deadline stream. We're going to do things a little bit differently today because Dean Jones isn't with us. A very late transfer, but we've got a very special guest joining us in probably 2 minutes' time. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. Guys, this is obviously free hit chat. We're with you for an hour. We're going to be going around some press conference news. We're going to show you our drafts. We're going to show you our guests' draft. We're still going to show you Dean's team, who's not on a free hit. We're going to look at some fixtures. We're going to compare some Crystal Palace midfielders as well. Guys, get your questions in on the chat. It's good to see we've got Danny B watching from Boston. We've got Benji. Damien's with us. Good to see so many new faces, as well as, of course, our chasers. Haley's with us. Graham's with us. Danish is with us. Danish, big question. Hakpo or Jota? What are you guys thinking in the chat? Let us know. Jota, Hakpo or Jota. I'm not sure if we've worked out how to do the poll yet. If we have, we'll stick a poll on. If not, fire in some names. Jota or Hakpo. Steve reckons Hakpo. Hakpo feels like he's a bit safer for a start, doesn't he? But Jota feels like the more explosive option. I really want to go Jota. I wonder if I'll end up going boring and going Hakpo. That's still good options though, right? We're all going Salah, we're all going Trent. So let's see. Let's see. Guys, we've got 78 of you in already. That's awesome. That is awesome. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to the stream. Shall we go through some top line news from today? So, in fact, let's bring up a few comments on screen so we can see. So, look, Michael says, Johnny, from sunny Edinburgh, hello. It's sunny here as well. I just got rained on walking the dogs 10 minutes ago, but it's now sunny. Now that Firmino is injured, Hakpo, says Damien. I don't think that matters. Bobby was never going to play anyway. Remember, Jota can still play 9 and Darwin left. Happy Friday, says Root Cause. It's too risky to go without Watkins. Yeah, I think it is. I've gone for Kane and Jesus with midfield 5. Wow, I haven't seen many free hits with Derek. Love that. Haven't seen many free hits with Kane. Derek says, wow, the balls are racked. That's a first. That is a fair point, Derek. Now, do you want to know why the balls are racked? Any guesses why the balls are racked? Let's have a look. Wrong answers only. All right answers only. Let's have a look. Let's see some suggestions on screen. Why are my lovely pool balls racked and ready to go? Let's have some guesses, shall we? Before we get into the FPL chat, which we're going to get to in 45 seconds time. But first, why are my balls racked? Just developed OCD. Not a bad guess, Steve. Incorrect, though. You're entertaining company, says Derek. Incorrect. Because you're just a neat guy. No, Julio, these are never racked. Because the snooker is on. No, good guess. Yes, Christine, we're talking about my balls. They're going to hit with you some players. The toddler can now reach the balls. These are all really good guesses, but all incorrect. And yeah, I have to be careful because the toddler, the baby is picking them up and dropping them, ruining my felt. Gianni has numbers allocated to free hit sections and what he thinks from the break goes in. Ooh, there's a game in there, isn't there? No, okay. The reason the balls are racked, none of you are watching, but I was on Sky Sports News this morning. And because I was on Sky Sports News and it wasn't an in-studio appearance, it was my first ever Sky Sports News video call on Skype. Who uses Skype these days? So I had to dig out my password. I was like, if I'm going on Sky Sports News, I need my backdrop to look impressive. So I wheeled out the best shirts. I tidied my footballs up in the background. I made sure all my coat hangers were facing the same direction. And I set up my magic pool balls so it looks really neat and tidy. Now, they often go on a close-up. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll have Ronaldo there, and Totti there. Quite nice. Maradona 10 behind that. Anyway, let's move on with some FPL chat. Haley Saw, good to see. Yeah, I was on with Holly. Right, let's move on. We're going to go first in with fresh off the press. So what we got for you this week, guys? Let's have a look. There's been a ton of press conferences yesterday. And there's been a ton of press conferences so far today. The big news so far that I have seen is probably centres around Liverpool. I don't think it's massive news. We've alluded to it already. Bobby Firmino's out for a few weeks. So those on a free hit going Hackpo, or not even those going Hackpo, have that extra assurance. But you could still see a front three of Darwin, Jota, Salah. Jota can play as the 9. He did last year a lot. Bobby was never going to start anyway. So are Hackpo's minutes a little bit more secure? Possibly an extra couple of %, but there's very little in it. So I don't think that necessarily should sway us too much. Other news, Gaeta has been pictured in training for Crystal Palace, the goalkeeper. Loads of us are going Sam Johnston on free hit. If you are doing that, myself included, your backup keeper has to be Gaeta, just in case. And if you're not going for Crystal Palace goalkeepers, you still need the backup as your number 2. So let's say you're going for Brentford, Raya or Pope. Then you have the Newcastle and the Brentford backup on your bench. Go for the top 2. Guys, our special guest is with us already. So, without further ado, let's introduce the big man. It's Big Man Backer himself. Hello, mate.
Thanks for having me, Johnny. Hope things are going well. I saw you were on a free hit as well. How's your draft looking? Are we settled?
We're never settled, mate. Do you know what? I'm gonna make sure I'm settled by probably the end of this stream, though. I don't want to go right up to deadline thinking about my decisions. Like, I often think with kind of the last minute decisions, when you've got a week to plan something, unless we get new information about an injury or team news or whatever, then I always feel like making last minute transfers 2 or 3 minutes before a deadline is stupid. You've had a whole 7 days. Like, why do you need that extra 3 or 4 minutes? You don't. So I'm going to try and lock it in with a couple of hours to spare today. I might not, and we might get Arsenal team news, and if we do, that could change things. But yeah, I'm still not set now, though, to be fair. I've got few big questions, and we'll address them in the show. Like, I think there's still a question over Hackpo or Jota or Darwin. I still think that's a question. It is for me. And then my other question is, do I go for Maddison or Isak? So obviously the midfield 5 or a front 3, but am I backing Leicester or Newcastle with one of their best players? So I'm still not sure. What about you? How's your draft looking?
Fairly settled. I mean, the main question mark for me was basically the 3rd Liverpool pick, which I wasn't sure about. But now with news that Firmino is out and the fact that Klopp has slightly hinted at rotation, I think I'm just going to pick Hackpo over Robertson. I don't think I'm going to back the Liverpool defense. I'm just going to chase the upside. So let's have fun on the free hit. Let's just target the ceiling.
I think you're right there. Like, to back the upside, I'm with you. I never had a draft with Trent in as well, and I know a lot did, but I'm all for the bigger ceiling, and I think you will get the bigger ceiling with Hackpo and maybe Darwin or Jota. Do you think that Bobby news? I know it's great to see because it's like, oh, that's one fewer player, but it's not like he was ever going to start anyway. We could still see, and this would be really annoying because he is a popular pick on the free hit Hackpo, but we could see Jota play number 9. I don't think he'll start there, but we have seen Darwin, Jota, Salah as a front 3, and Jota played 9 a lot last year. So that Bobby Firmino news is good, but it's not absolute guarantee Hackpo now plays 90 minutes either, is it?
It's not a guarantee, but it minimizes the risk of him getting subbed early. And it was interesting to see in the press conference that Klopp sort of mentioned that, Darwin is a long-term project and he's not exactly the kind of forward that they need right now in terms of pressing, which sort of hinted that, he was basically saying that the front 3 right now are doing really well, and I don't think he will make changes based on that. So if you are asking me in terms of which Liverpool asset is safe, and Hackpo both should start. And it depends on your structure really. If you want a midfielder, you can go with Jota. If you want a forward, you can go with Hakpo. For me personally, there are a lot of forwards that I like, which is why I'm going to go with Hakpo.
That's absolutely fair enough. Well, we'll be showing our teams later on. In terms of other big sort of injury news, there hasn't really been any today, has there? Like that Liverpool press conference. I'm going to go back after the stream and actually watch the press conference because I've not seen it. I've seen the quotes, as we've just mentioned. But in terms of any other big news, I don't think there's been any, has there? In the last, I know I've seen doing the rounds on Twitter a photo of Gaeta training. So, you know, Crystal Palace goalkeepers, if you're going for Johnson, make sure you've got Gaeta on the bench just in case. Other than that, it's been a fairly quiet Friday. And, you know, last night we saw the return of Rashford and Shaw. Obviously, that doesn't matter for us in terms of game week 32, but moving forward, that's good to see. We saw Ake get injured in the week. That's annoying for an FPL managers that brought him in, myself included, last week. So we don't know how long he'll be out with the hamstring. But I'm trying to think, has there been any other sort of big injury headlines?
Nothing groundbreaking as such. I mean, just tidbits of information. Longstaff is back for Newcastle, which slightly improves their defense. I think it was a big miss last week. Other than that, I haven't checked on Everton. Is Onana back? Because again, if Onana is back, that could have an impact on their midfield because they've been missing him and Decore over the past couple of weeks. So these are the slight tidbits of information you need to sort of get through before deciding on your 50-50s on the free hit. Because I mean, essentially that's all that it's going to come down to, because it's all 50-50 decisions. Almost everyone are going to have, let's say, the same score of 7 to 8 players. So essentially the 3 or 4 players that are going to be different on every free hit.
Yeah, so true. Like we're all going to have 6 from Arsenal and Liverpool. We're probably all going to have Watkins and many Johnsons. So that's straight away, that's 8 players.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, where are you picking up those extras? I think I saw a quote yesterday from Sean Dyche that suggested Onana was maybe going to face a late fitness test. I'm just trying to find it. So he was still doubtful, and I feel like Decore. Here we go. Onana could return, but Coleman, Decore, and a few others are still on the sidelines. So no Decore, we do know that. We also know no Coleman, and Patterson hasn't been great or even fully fit. And then Onana is possibly going to be out too. There was positive news on Calvert-Lewin. Having played 70 minutes midweek, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is in the thinking. So I expect he features. Does he start? Probably unlikely.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to start. I mean, he's been out for a while. But how high are you on the Crystal Palace defense? Are you confident? Do you think they'll do well?
I'm invested in the goalkeeper because I think he'll pick up save points because he has done in recent weeks. But I'm not going for a Crystal Palace defender. Only the goalkeeper where, the odds of a clean sheet for Crystal Palace are higher than a lot of the other teams we're looking at. Yeah. You know, your Aston Villas or your Fulhams or wherever. But am I confident? No, I'm not. I mean, Newcastle have better odds of a clean sheet than most teams, but we're just going Trippier. It may make sense to start looking at, I haven't seen many teams with Pope in, for example. He picks up save points too. What's your take on that defense?
I don't have Pope, but I do have double Newcastle defense in my.
Do you? You got Shah of you?
Yeah, I've got Shah. Because as you said, there are not too many defenses that you can back, and I believe Newcastle have an elite defense. So why not go there? I mean, Spurs away from home have basically been a middling attack when you look at their underlying data. I was in fact looking at their stats, and they're like almost 9th or 10th in terms of XG away from home, which is decent. I mean, it's basically the fact that when you're short of options, you just back the best defense. Newcastle at home in particular have been very, very elite, and Shaw does have some kind of goal threat as well. So I mean, with the third defender slot, I think you can afford to go different. There's Castagna as well, who I really like if he plays as a wing back. Coming to the Crystal Palace defense, I mean, their numbers have been great, and they concede plenty of low XG shots, which is great as far as the goalkeeper is concerned. But I mean, Everton under Dyche have been fairly attacking. I mean, they're not exactly the traditional conservative Burnley-esque team that we thought they would be. They're fairly gung-ho going forward. I watched a few of their games in recent times, and they were very open. I mean, they concede plenty of chances, and they do have a bit of a go. So I won't be surprised if they scored. This is why I'm hesitant to double up, because the problem with the Palace defense is that none of the guys have any major form of attacking threat.
Yeah, I'm with you there. We'll compare some Palace midfielders later in the show, which is actually data I got from one of your tweets a few days ago. So I look forward to showing that graphic later. So yeah, okay. Well, there we go. Look, we've mentioned some of the big headlines from the week just gone. In terms of the what we saw kind of in Europe this week, because we've seen Man City progress, we've seen Man United knocked out, and the schedule now going forward. Does United out the Europa slightly strengthen their appeal for, say, double 34? Because I'm looking at 34 thinking, how do I get Mo Salah back into my team? And I've got Bruno and Rashford.
Yeah,
And I'm
I
reluctant
think
to sell either.
you're not going to be the only
Yeah.
person in this predicament, because I assume you must have gone for Grealish in 31. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, right. So
No,
almost
I went
everyone.
30. I was a week early on Grealish.
Oh, you were early. Yeah, but basically everyone who has Grealish is
Yeah.
in this conundrum, because a lot of people have double Brighton as well. So they're like double United, double Brighton, Grealish. Who do we sell for Salah? Right.
Yeah.
That's the question. I assume the majority of people will probably sell Fernandez because he's been blanking, and because United's double isn't exactly the best on paper. In 34, they're playing Brighton and Villa, with both teams are doing well. But again, when you look at Bruno's fixtures after 34, they're really good. And the fact that he was very unlucky, even against Forest, he had very good underlying data. So I can see where you're going from there. And you can't really sell the Brighton mids either. You can't really sell the Grealish either, because he's playing Fulham and West Ham. So where do you go? It's almost if your hand is forced now that Rashford is fit. I mean, it's tough. It's definitely tough. But the other thing with their Europa exit is that Eriksen is fit now as well. So Eriksen will get more minutes in the league too, which means that Bruno will play further forward. So if that happens, if Eriksen is playing, then Bruno becomes even a better asset in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And we saw in that last game, Bruno did play when Sabitzer was injured in the warm-up, like how he dodged so many points in that game, in that last Premier League game. Let's move on. Look, we're going to be showing our teams later in the show, so stay tuned for both of our drafts. We're going to show Dean's draft as well. Okay, not Dean's draft. We're going to show Dean's team because he's not on a free hit. So let's see how he used his transfers this week. I think he did have 2, and I think he's fairly well set. I can see loads of you in the chat. It's good to see so many new faces. Rubber Ducky is with us, says quack, quack. Rubber Ducky, you never watch Chasing Green Arrows live. And now Big Man comes on the show, and here you are. With the exception of City, is there anybody we really trust? I mean, that's a good question for more general stuff, but we're going to stick to more niche stuff on the free hit. Eze versus Isak, says JP. That's a really good question. We're going to get to that in a sec because we're going to compare Crystal Palace mids in our next section, as well as looking ahead at some of those fixtures. So for that more general chat, as Rubber Ducky has mentioned. So let's load up our tips and our chips. Here we go. I just wanted to go very top line on this. And I know I said we're going to keep this streamlined, but we do have to focus or just touch on the fact that we've had a double game week now confirmed in 36. And we were mentioning Salah then, and Rubber Ducky says about Man City being the only team to trust. 75% of those watching, Big Man, are on a free hit. But for those that aren't, recruiting Liverpool players, of course, this week makes complete sense. What do we do with our Arsenal players? Because when we look at the fixtures here, what should we recruit Arsenal players if we're not on a free hit? Because yes, it's Southampton this week, but I can't see a huge amount of points, 33 to 36.
I think it depends on whether or not you have a wild card in hand. If you have a wild card in hand, you're likely to wild card in 33 or 34, then I would suggest that you go all out in Liverpool and Arsenal so that you chase the upside, because it'll be easier to remove the Arsenal players later. If you don't have a wild card, then I assume maybe one of Martinelli or Saka is enough. I think I won't be buying those players because you'd only be selling them later, because I don't see a scenario where Arsenal midfielders are really part of a conversation at least until game week 37.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. And if you're not on a free hit this week, and you're looking at your teams and players that blank, your Chelsea, Brighton, City and United assets, don't sell your Brighton players because look at that. Double 34, double 36, very likely double 37. You just, and Forest up next week. Oh, sorry, I say next week. Remember, we got a midweek deadline next week. So we'll have a Tuesday, Wednesday round of fixtures. So yeah, we'll move on from this, but just wanted to touch base that we've had those confirmed fixtures. But let's get back on the free hit chat and load up some stats now. This has gone 360, right? So this is a graphic from my YouTube channel that I did a video 2 days ago and I showed this. But I got these numbers from Big Man Backer's tweet 3 days ago. So it's quite funny that here he is now on this show and we're showing the numbers that I saw on Big Man's timeline, which I guess was data from Hub. And it's since Zaha's injury, which is the absolute key to this. But I think it's a really useful comparison. And it's only a few numbers. We're not going into all the metrics here. But I think this is what we perhaps need to see. Because yes, Eze and Elise have been getting points. Eze the goals. But actually, when you look at the XG and the penalty area touches, in my first draft on Monday, before I even saw these numbers, just from eye testing, Ayew was in my team, Big Man. And I think he's being overlooked.
For sure, because he's in the sexiest of picks going around. That's the main thing, right? Because he's never really been part of the conversation in terms of FPL, and he's been around for quite a while. I mean, I remember when he was at Swansea, even before, and he's never really been an option in terms of FPL. But his numbers are decent. I still don't think many people will go there. People will just go on form, and Eze is supposedly the guy in form. But I think Ayew can do well, and these numbers, another point I'd like to mention is these numbers that you have on screen, they're suggesting that Ayew is the best pick, but you also got to consider that Ayew actually played almost 45 minutes less than Eze and Olise, because Zaha got taken off after the first half. So this is 45 minutes less. His stats are actually much better. And I think there's a significant difference. If I was picking a Palace mid, I would be on with you. I'd be on Ayew.
Yeah, he's on. I think I've got him as on one of my bench players. But yeah, me too. Eze has been scoring goals of late, but they are low XG goal chances. They are worldies, and that's usually not sustainable. He is an absolute baller. We like that. Elise's never had goal threat, but he does come with a ton of assist threat, and he's on half set pieces. But Ayew, and he did score a really good header. I think it was 2 games ago. Yeah. Those touches are useful. He's highest up the pitch. He's nearest to goal, and he is clocking the XG. So I think Ayew, and he's listed as a midfielder. We forget. We're not comparing 2 mids and a forward here. Jordan Ayew is now a midfielder, and I think he's exactly the same price as Eze and Elise. He's like 5.2, pretty much all the same.
Exactly. The thing with Palace mids, though, is that points will be spread. I don't think there's a clear talisman, and you'll basically have to get lucky. If you hit the lottery, if you hit the jackpot, then you'll just get lucky, because it's very difficult to say. There's these 3 mids. There's Edward as well, whose numbers have been all right. So I mean, it's very difficult to pick the talisman in this team. And let's say if we predict Palace to score twice, then I'm not really sure who will get the highest number of points. But if I had to guess on the basis of data, I think I like Ayew. Edward's numbers aren't that bad either. Olise, as you say, is more of an assist threat. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And we should also mention Uncle Roy absolutely loves Jordan Ayew. He loved him in his last spell. We're talking about talisman and teams, and it is. If Palace scored 2 and you look on the video printer, you just have no idea who's going to be getting goals and assists, especially with Zaha out of the team. But one team we perhaps could consider, and Haley asks about Iheanacho, is Leicester, the worst home form in the league. But new manager bounce, could we see it? We saw signs against Man City. Wolves haven't been great on the road. Expected goals conceded is fairly high for Wolves when you look at the last fair few matches. And they have a clear talisman in Maddison. And you could argue Iheanacho, if he starts, has a very good record. And I think he will start. So have you considered Leicester attack?
I have, and at one point when I had Robertson in my draft, I had Maddison in my team, and then I swapped that position to Hakpo. But I do think they will do well this week. I mean, if I was to predict, I think Leicester will will beat Wolves. Their underlying data has been atrocious, but again, now it's kind of like, when if you look at Villa, I know Villa are sort of an extreme example, but pre Emery and post Emery, it's a completely different picture altogether. And considering the fact that it's a must-win game in probably one of the biggest game of their seasons
Yeah.
at home. I mean, I personally think if I had to pick a result, I would pick a narrow Leicester win, probably 1-0 or 2-1 or something of the sort. And Inacho is an interesting one. I think he in his cameo he's done enough to warrant a start. And finally, that now that he has a manager who's not named Brendan Rodgers, he's much more likely to start than previously. And it's interesting to note that when Madison plays with Iheanacho, his numbers improve as well. So it has a knock-on effect on Madison as well. So I think Madison becomes a better asset with Iheanacho as well. So I don't mind going there on a free hit, or even for Castan if you're looking to go for a defender. He's likely to play as the wing back, and Wolves, they barely create any XG away from home.
Yeah, and if we're looking at wing backs, as we saw against City, it will mean Maddison plays kind of in the hole as the number 10, so he's more central, which again should be better for Maddison. So one to monitor, but yeah, it's the thing that puts me off, and you mentioned it, it's that fairly low ceiling. It's, if they win, is it going to be a 1-0? Like, do we see them scoring 2-3 goals? And when we look at other teams, like perhaps a Newcastle, you go, okay, I could see a 2+ goal game there for them.
Yes, I think out of all the games this weekend, this one has the feel of being a cagey affair because of what is at stake, especially for Leicester. I mean, they can probably they'll make things tight, and even if they go ahead, I think they'll probably sit back and defend the league.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on. We're going to answer some questions when we can. The chat's been popping off, which is great. And look, guys, we can't show every comment, but we are able to at least read your comments. Bowen or Antonio as a punt. What's your take on Pablo's question here, big man? Because West Ham were very impressive second half on Thursday night, but this isn't a squad that's used to playing twice a week. And when we've seen them in Europe earlier this season, it was heavily rotated teams. Now they're in the knockout stages of the Europa Conference. Moyes is obviously playing the first 11, which he also needs in the Premier League. They've now got to travel to the South Coast. Will we see tired legs? I mean, it could have gone extra time last night and it didn't. So West Ham fans will be happy about that. But could we consider, I don't think Antonio's a punt, Pablo, because he played last night and I'd be very surprised if we could see Ings come in and start. But Bowen's worth our consideration, maybe.
I don't personally like Bowen as a punt. I haven't really considered him on the free hit because he's been a homer this season. When you look at his numbers at home, they're much better. Away from home, he's had like one big chance involvement all season, and his goal threat has basically been negligible. And considering that he's not even on penalties, I'm not personally looking at him. If you're looking for a West Ham option, I'd rather go with Benrahma because that's where Bournemouth tend to concede plenty of their chances down that wing, and Benrahma is also on penalties. So I think he's a better pick than Bowen if you really want to go with a West Ham asset.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I personally think that Bournemouth will win. I think they're a team high on confidence, playing really well, posting really good XG numbers. West Ham coming on the back of the European fixture on Thursday, I think they will struggle because Bournemouth are a fully rested team. I think Bournemouth will win probably 2-1, something like that.
What about the Bournemouth players then? We'll see your team shortly, but have you gone for Solanki or anyone from Bournemouth?
I have Solanki. Yes,
Ooh.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether you like that pick because I remember being on Chasing Green Arrows back. Was it in game week 8 or 9? And that is when Solanki was becoming a bit of an option, and a lot of teams were going with him as a budget enabler. I was one of them, but I remember you didn't like him back then. Has your opinion changed, or are you still the same?
My opinion's changed. My opinion's massively changed. I had to eat my words off the back of that. Yeah, Solanki's he works hard for the team. He's a real team player. And sometimes the biggest compliment you can give a player that doesn't have bags of talent is they work harder than the rest. And because of it, they're really valuable assets to the team. And they can become valuable FPL assets because he's one of the few number 9s in the league that has big assist threat as well as goal threat. And that assist threat is often through hard work and through him hustling and creating assists off his own back. His numbers look good. And I like Bournemouth. I really like Bournemouth attack. I think they're free-flowing and they always commit numbers forward.
I think the January signings have made a massive difference to the whole squad. Their
Yeah.
numbers have shot up ever since. I mean, they're like a team full of energy, playing very well, full of confidence. O'Neill's done a very good job, and the good thing about them is that even when you look at their improvement in numbers in recent times, they've had a horrid run of fixtures. So they've played Arsenal, Man City, Villa, those kind of teams in recent times. Yet they've done well in terms of posting that kind of XG, which is what makes me very confident on Solanki as a pick. In fact, when you look at the last four matches, Jani,
Yeah.
he's actually first for shots inside the box, non-pen XG, non-pen XGI.
Is he?
These are things which unprecedented from a Bournemouth player, because you don't really associate them to be this kind of free-flowing side.
Yeah.
Another shocking stat is I was looking at their Bournemouth's XG data over the past four matches. They actually have a better XG than Man City, which is crazy.
Do they really? Wow, that is phenomenal.
Over the last four, yeah.
Wow, I'm still not going for a Bournemouth player, but I completely understand those that will go for Solanki, and I think it's a really smart decision. I'm not going there because I don't know. I think there's better options. It's not because I don't necessarily like him this week. I think there's one, better options, but two, I always like West Ham defence under Moyes, and I know they've not been good this season, but I don't like backing against a Moyes defence, even though they could be tired.
Yeah, I mean their underlying data isn't the worst, but I think away from home they're not as solid as they are at home. When you look at some of their away fixtures recently, they're conceding 2+ XG, so I'm not that bothered about the West Ham defense.
Oh no, Harry's in the chat. Oh, we can't talk Solanki and not mention FPL Harry. I of course you think he's good, Harry. One of the early adopters on Solanki, and fair play. It's contributed to Harry's rise in this
Congratulations,
season.
Harry. I see you're having a phenomenal season.
Yeah, and actually, not just down to Solanki, to so many good picks at the right time, and that's what FPL is about. Not Dylan says Jesus versus Kane. This is an interesting debate because I'm seeing Kane still pop up in. I've not seen it on FPL Twitter, but just from looking at my YouTube comments this morning, I was like, seeing Kane in loads of teams. I'm really surprised people are going Harry Kane. I just think Spurs look so underwhelming of late. And we know Newcastle's defence at St James's is a solid backline. I think they'll bounce back from last week's defeat. And I can't see Spurs doing much. And sure, look, Kane could get that 6 to 7 pointer, but I feel like the ceiling is still very low with Kane. Jesus, the ceiling's sky high. If Jesus gets a brace, you're not surprised against Southampton at home. So Jesus, a really easy one there for me.
If Jesus is starting, I hope we get some leaks before the deadline. He's in my team. I'd take 60 minutes of Jesus right now over 90 minutes of Kane. I think it's a fairly straightforward choice. When you look at the stats, I mean, since he's come back from injury, Jesus is third in the league, only behind Solanki, coincidentally, and Watkins for non-pen XGI. So his numbers have been really good. And at home, he is just a different beast. He gets plenty of big chances and big chances moments. So I really like him as a pick. I just hope he starts, because he's actually going to be a big differential over those people who are not free hitting. Yeah. None of them will go for him.
Yeah, agreed, especially with those fixtures. You're right. We've got loads of questions coming in. Nuclear Atoms, Solanki or Ayew? Ooh, for non-free hitters. Well, Ayew is a midfielder, remember now. Look, I would say Solanki over Ayew. Yeah. And if I'm saying that, we can almost guarantee that it's...
Yeah, one of the main reasons behind it is not just the fact that I prefer Solanki this week, but also you've got to factor in the likes of the double Brighton mids, Salah, Rashford, Bruno, Grealish. The midfield slot is stacked. So the midfield template is basically being dictated by the schedule. So I would rather go with the forward.
Yeah, fair play. FPL Guns, our very own world number 4 in the chat. Ali J, how you doing, mate? He says much love. He's a Darwin owner. Ali, we want you back at number 1, mate. We really do. So fingers crossed Darwin comes in for you. Big man, how do you rate Darwin's chances of a start? Because some are speculating that it will be his time to come in, but it feels like if you have him, obviously you hold him, but it feels like a way too risky buy this week, because I think it will be the same front three as Monday night, and Darwin's got to wait his turn.
Exactly. I completely agree, especially after Klopp's comments where he seemed to suggest that they need a pressing forward and they're happy with the system. I don't really see him coming in this week.
Yeah. I saw a comment from someone earlier. It said, Big Man and Janny, the dream combination. Absolutely loving that. Yeah, Shazad, Janny and Baka, dream combo. Thank you, mate. That's awesome to hear. And hopefully we'll have Big Man on again before the end of the show. We also had someone mention having your camera in a different position at the moment, Big Man, apparently. You're slightly a more wider frame like I am, because usually you're a bit more of a close-up. Apparently.
Yes, I mean, to be very honest, I didn't have enough time to set it up correctly, so this is the way it is.
I love that.
That's why I was late.
It was a very, very late call up. Dean was due to be on. He's on the thumbnail, Dean. But he was in London today and struggling to find somewhere he could get good enough Wi-Fi to stream. So he messaged us at like 45 minutes to the deadline, to the stream, saying can't do it. So straight away, I think our producer got on the phone and Big Man fortunately picked up, or I was going to be streaming alone for an hour. Almost surreal, Gianni, like I'm dreaming, says Shazad. Good stuff. Thanks, mate. Mark asks about Son. Oh, no, he doesn't. He's just saying he was thrashing his son at darts. I saw the word Son there, Mark, and I thought you might be putting a differential shout in front of us, but I think we're both avoiding Spurs assets. Guys, we are going to move on to our teams. Many of you are here to see my draft and Big Man's draft first, so we can tease it even longer. We're going to just very quickly show you Dean's team. So let's have a look at Pimp My Team. No, let's have a look at... There we go. I forgot. It's not Pimp My Team. It's Team Reveals and Strategies and slightly different sting. So look, this is Dean's team. He's not on a free hit because he's a casual. And casual managers don't use and save their chips for the right time. And this season, I thought, Dean, you're gonna go with every step of my way with chip strategy. And we got to like, I don't know, a random game week 14. And he was like, yeah, I've used my free hit because it's, why not? And I was thinking, no, Dean, no. All his other chip play has been bang on this season. And his transfers, to be fair, have been good. And his team is well set. So he's doing well. And we're bringing him out of that casual status. But not having a free hit this week, having used it on a week where he really didn't need to, is frustrating for him. But he's covered it well. And he could see a huge benefit to that because it means he's held on to, say, his Arsenal players, who many of us have sold. He's actually recruited quite well. He had 2 free transfers this week, and it looks like he's brought in Hakpo. Pretty sure he wasn't in his team. And I think Ollie Watkins, I don't think he was in either. We both have been without Watkins. So he's actually able to field a good-looking 11. Like, this team could very comfortably outscore free hit teams. It doesn't have Salah, but Martinelli is a captain shout. Could be quite fun, Big Man. I mean, he's the Arsenal asset I'd go to if I was given someone the armband at Arsenal.
Exactly. I mean, as long as Salah keeps quiet, I don't think that team is that bad. I think that team could do well this week, especially considering the fact that it has 11 starters.
Yeah, he's done well to plan ahead to get an 11 out.
Yeah, especially with 3 Brighton on the bench, it's all right.
Yeah. And for those of you that perhaps have a free hit but aren't sure if you should use it this week, because I think Nuclear Atoms said the other day he's going to use his 34 instead. If you can get to 9-10 good players this week, I don't think you need to use your free hit at all. And it's about quality over quantity, but 9 good players, I mean, Dean's got 11 players out, most of which... all of them look like fairly good shouts, to be fair. Like, you'd see all of these in some free hit drafts, possibly not the double Brentford defense, but all the other players I've seen in drafts. Then, yeah, you don't have to use it this week. But for me and for Big Man, heavily invested in clubs like Brighton and United and City, we're probably going to be fielding 4-5 without the free hit. Therefore, our hand was almost forced. Chelsea too. Yeah, I've got triple Chelsea.
Yeah.
Still got Havertz, mate.
I mean, how have you not lost patience with him?
Oh, I've lost patience. I just don't know how he's still in my team. It was on my bench last week, I think. I didn't even put him in my 11. But how have I not just said, take the -4 and get Ollie Watkins in? Just make that sideways move. But there's been other fires. So a little bit like, I think Pranil, did he get rid of did Late Riser get rid of Havertz last week? Or is this because he's not had Ollie Watkins either, is he?
Yeah, he had Martial. He sold him. Yeah, he had Martial. Now Martial is injured as well.
Of course he bought Martial.
Standard.
Yeah. Okay, so here's Dean's team. Let's move on and see some free hit teams. So my team up first. It could change.
Which
It
slots are
could
locked
change.
in?
So locked in, I have Johnson and Gaeta, definitely. Trips, Trent, Alex Moreno. The back three is locked in. Martinelli, Saka, Salah locked in. Jesus Watkins locked in. So the only two that aren't locked in are Hakpo and Isak.
All
The
right.
bench I
So
don't
you
really care
basically,
about.
I assume that they're basically dependent on whichever third Liverpool you pick. So if you get Jota, you'll get a different mid. You're definitely getting 3 Liverpool, right?
Yeah, it could be Jota and Maddison. It could be Hakpo and Isak. Could be Ian Acho, but I don't think it will be. That's just too risky, even for me. So, yeah, it's going to be those two slots are going to be a Liverpool player, Hakpo or Jota, and then it's Isaac. I keep saying Isak. I think it's Isaac. I think he likes Isaac, or Mads. So I'm a little unsure because if it's Maddison and Hakpo, for example, that's a midfield 5. But yeah, it doesn't matter too much. I'd have a front 2. So I'm still a little bit torn.
Isak versus Madison is a 50-50. I mean, I really can't help you over there. If the thing is, if Isak starts as the striker, if Wilson isn't playing, then I want Isak. But I'm not really sure whether that will be the case because Wilson, I think, will come in, and Isak will probably play on the left. And his threat isn't as great in that position. In which case, I'd prefer Madison. But it's very difficult to say which position Isak will play in.
Yeah, I want someone to tell me Isak's guaranteed 100% to be starting as the number 9 because, yeah, you're right. There's a good chance Callum Wilson could come in for this home fixture. We haven't seen them start in the Premier League together. I think maybe once, or have we just seen them in a...
They haven't started together, but yes, they've played together.
Yeah.
Basically, once come on for someone
And
else.
they looked good, didn't they? I remember they looked good.
Yeah, they won a game very recently against Brentford where both of them combined.
That's it. And Howe said post-match is something he hasn't ruled out and would like to see more of. But Almiron's back fit, so you'd think he comes back into the 11 because he's been so good for them this year.
Almiron will definitely start. They missed him last week. I mean, I think Anthony Gordon will drop out, and Longstaff is back as well, which will improve their defense.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm thinking here. It can't be Jota and Isak, so that's a combination I can't have. But it can be Jota and Mads, or it can be Hakpo and Isaac is on screen. So yeah, I think I'm still torn. I think I should probably just play safe and go with Hakpo. Let's see what the chat's saying. Let us know in the chat. Why the Moreno dude? Tony will score 2. The Moreno dude is a lock for me. Aston Villa's chances of a clean sheet, admittedly, are slightly lower than teams like Crystal Palace, but he's there for assist threat. Alex Moreno has a higher chance of an attacking return, in my opinion, than any defender outside of Newcastle, Arsenal, and Liverpool. Therefore, for me, he's in my team for upside. What's your take there, big man?
I would agree with that. I think his attacking threat is great, but I mean, I back Brentford to score. They've scored in all barring 2 of their home games this season, which is why I'm not really considering a Villa defender because I back Brentford to do well, at least score.
Yeah. I'm keen to, off the back of this stream, look at some more numbers on Hakpo versus Jota from Monday night. And I think off the top of my head, Jota's underlyings will be more impressive in terms of shots and touches in the opponent's box. Do you know any off the top of your head, big man, from Monday night?
Yes,
you saw them both playing.
Yes, I mean, not just Monday night. Actually, I looked into the numbers. So basically, they've started together on 3 occasions in the Premier League, and their numbers are more or less very, very similar. But the thing is that when you look at the average position maps, Hakpo is more central, and he's also going to get the additional point for goal, clean sheet, and with Nunes lurking, I think he's more likely to come on for Jota as compared to Hakpo. So it's just these kind of factors which make me lean towards Hakpo as a pick over Jota.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I think with Jota's injury as well, like the idea of him playing loads of sets of 90, knowing the fixture congestion we're about to get, I think Hakpo does make sense. So the team I've got on screen, there's a very good chance this is what I go with.
I think the bigger decision for you should be between Isak and Maddison.
Yeah. And Madison's been in my team all week. Isak, so the producer asked me for a screen grab of my team last night, and I sent this exact team with Madison. And then 10 minutes later, I said, "Oh no, new version, put Isak in." I just fancy Newcastle to be fairly comfortable. Is the wrong word. I fancy them to beat Spurs convincingly, and therefore I want more than just trips. I don't know. Maybe Pope's the answer, but am I backing a clean sheet? I don't know. I'm backing them to score 2 goals, Newcastle. So let's see. Good seeing the chat. Go on.
I agree with you when you say that. I completely agree. I think Newcastle beats Spurs as well. The thing with Pope is that he doesn't really make saves, though. That's
Yeah,
the
not
thing.
anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah. I mean, if I was looking at a keeper, that's why I like the Palace keeper or even Everson. I mean, I expect Wolves just gift saves to keepers. When you look at the likes of Raya last week, before that was Kepa, before that was I think Melier from Leeds. So Wolves are the masters of having low XG shots from distance, which is exactly what you want from your keepers. So I think
Yeah,
the keepers this week are from Palace or Wolves.
it's a fair point. And Neves is back in, I think, and we know he'll have 2 of those shots on target from 30 yards, which will be comfortable saves. Good to see so many new faces, by the way, in the chat. If you're new around here, please do hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel. Chasing Green Arrows is a fairly new channel. You may not have come across us before. We stream on Mondays and Fridays pretty much every week, usually in sort of slightly later, around 7 p.m. UK time. Questions in the chat and thoughts in the chat. Yeah, Mark's got Newcastle as 2 or 3-0 winners. CH says Newcastle might win, but I don't have faith in the clean sheet. Yeah, fair. I mean, look, Kane and Son will always be dangerous. Leicester do need Johnny Evans back, but he's not going to be. Castagna is getting a bit of love in the chat. Not for me. Why no Tony, Janny? What do we think to Tony? Because I am backing against Brentford here. Not only have I picked an Aston Villa defender, but I'm swerving Tony. I'm comfortable with that because I'm blown away with how good Aston Villa have been in recent weeks. But what's your take?
On Tony?
Yeah. The penalty appeal is always so strong with him, isn't it? And he does get big
Brentford have
chances
had the
too.
highest number of penalties this season.
Yeah.
Villa are, I think, they've conceded the 4th most. So, I mean, there's a good chance of a
Nice.
penalty in this fixture. But do you really want to back against Emi Martinez if you're a penalty taker?
Yeah,
I mean,
fair. And he missed his last one, didn't he, Tony? His first ever miss in a Brentford shirt from the spot.
Exactly. If you ask me, I think Brentford will score, but I don't think Tony has a very high ceiling. I mean, let's say if we get news that Jesus isn't starting, then I'll probably go with Tony in my team. But I think there are better forwards to pick than him because the ceiling isn't that high. Even though I do think Brentford will score, I don't think it'll be more than 1.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Oh, so I mean, yeah, I think you're right. I think my decision comes down to Isak, Madison, and then should I be going Solanki as an option, Tony as an option, and if so, does that spot become someone else? But I think I've nailed my team. After speaking with you, after listening to the chat, and giving myself a little bit more time to think about this, I'm going to go Hakpo over Jota. It makes sense. And I do pick up a clean sheet point and the extra point for a goal, knowing his numbers are similar. And I do think I get slightly more expected minutes. So the only spot I'm still torn on is, do I go Isak? And he hasn't been in my team all week. Madison has been. Solanki's been nowhere near my team all season, but he should be considered.
Better late than never.
Yeah, exactly. Well, same with Ollie Watkins. This is the first time Ollie Watkins has been in my team, who has just absolutely killed my season. Like the swing of Havertz to Watkins 5 weeks ago. I dread to think how good my rank would be if I had gone Watkins. All those points, I think it's probably about a 30 point swing. I think Christine, I think maybe worked it out for me and put it in the chat the other day. Let's move on. See my team. This is what it's going to be. The only spot is Isak. Obviously, captaincy Salah. And my advice, by the way, if you're not captaining Salah, for me, it's still stick within the Liverpool fixture. I think that Liverpool fixture is considerably is the wrong word. It's better for me in terms of upside than the Arsenal fixture. Forest are worse travellers. Liverpool are scoring goals for fun. They just stuck 6 or 7 past Leeds, 7 past United. Back Liverpool big, I think. Let's move on. See what we can do with your team. Seeing as it was a late call-up, we managed to get a screen grab just in time. Talk us through it, mate.
So I'm more or less settled. I think the only slot I'm contemplating or deciding on is probably the third defender slot, which I'm not sure on. And if Jesus is starting, he's going to be in my squad as well. So basically, triple Arsenal attack, double Liverpool attack, and Trent is more or less settled because as I've alluded to earlier, I want to go with the upside. Watkins is in the form of his life.
Yeah.
Newcastle's defensive stats are elite at home, and Trippier's still his numbers are decent in terms of creating chance. I don't really want to put myself in a position where I do see Newcastle as a good defense, and I just don't want to back against Trippier for the sake of it. Because if Newcastle keep a clean sheet, Trippier is likely getting 7-8 points, and I don't want to bet against that and negate the advantage that I have on a free hit because pretty much everyone will own him anyway. Um, which again brings me to the next point that when I do back Newcastle as being this elite watertight defense, then why not actually gain on effective ownership? Because effectively with Trippier, you're not really getting a share of the points if Newcastle keep a clean sheet. So that's where you can benefit.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think Johnston is locked. Um, Maybe I swap Share and Castan around because I do think Leicester could keep a clean sheet as well. That's the only thing I'm contemplating. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of logic to going double Newcastle defence, and I am backing Newcastle to win to nil, as I mentioned. I'm not going with a double defence because I'm so in love with Moreno, but I think it's a wise move. I guess I look at the goalkeepers and I'd put Gaeta on my bench just in case Gaeta is back.
Okay.
So you've got double Crystal Palace defence, goalkeeper, and I think no matter what goalkeeper I was going with on free hit, I'd probably always have the number 1 and 2 combination. But the rest of the team, I mean, if I do go, let's say I went Isak to Solanki, is pretty much the same team, other than Shah instead of Moreno. So all your other decisions, mate, I'm with you. It's good to see that you've gone triple Arsenal attack. I'm a big fan of that because so many will go Gabriel and then 2 Arsenal attack, and then again, there will still be lots that go Robertson and Trent and only 1 Liverpool midfielder. Both of us have gone double Liverpool attack with Trent. So, yeah, mate, I think you're very well set. Captaincy doesn't even feel a conversation. I guess for me, I would pick Maddison over Solanke, I think. And I think that's what I might end up doing, right? I might go Maddison over Isak. And therefore, would you consider going to a 5-man midfield and starting Maddison? I just think Maddison, he's so hurt by how poor Leicester have been. He's the talisman. He wants to keep him up. It's his last season. The narrative is all there for him to beat a Midlands rival in Wolves and be the main man again.
I've been so high on Solanke all week that I mean I won't be able to take FE Holden if I ended up with him on the bench. I mean, honestly, I'll just back my gut, my instinct, and he's on penalties as well. West Ham conceded the highest number of penalties this season. Hopefully, Bournemouth can win a penalty because they haven't had a single penalty awarded to them this season. Wow. So, I mean, it's just. I mean, you have to accept that at the end of the day, it's 1 week, and 1 week could be random. 1 week is always random. I mean, it's pot luck at the end of the day, but you've just got to put yourself in a position where you can get lucky. Essentially, that's what we're doing with the Arsenal attackers, with the Liverpool attackers, just backing on one of them, just winning 5 or 6-1, or even by more goals. That's what we're effectively banking on.
Yeah, you're right. You're so right. And it is like if we're picking Solanke, it's like, okay, we're picking a form player from a form team scoring goals. You pick someone like Maddison, it's like he's blanked in his last how many games. Leicester haven't scored or have barely scored in how many. Low shot volume, the worst home record. But something tells me Leicester are going to start to turn it round and we're going to get some new manager bounce. So again, I think I'm up for going with that 1 week punt. And a bit like you with Solanke, it's because I've been there from the start of the week, and it's just the guy I thought I'd always have on my free hit team. I've also been stung by Maddison, and I wonder if that's affecting my decision. Like, I bought in Maddison on a -4 a couple of weeks back, and I sold him the week later for a -4. Like, he's cost me 8 points, and I think he produced a 2-pointer. So he's cost me 6 points. And I wonder if that in my head has made me go, yeah.
Exactly. I don't think... Exactly. I haven't owned Maddison since restart. So a lot of people have been burnt by his blanks. He's come close to points, but he hasn't actually delivered anything, which is why the significant majority of those people are basically scarred and not picking him. I'm not exactly one of those who haven't been through the process, but this does come into the psychology of things. when you go through such experiences. So I can understand why people are hesitant to go there.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, look, Vezan says Maddie will haul. Lars says Leicester can suddenly win 5-0, so unpredictable. I agree with both those comments, but then I also get Kev saying Leicester aren't in good form. Mark saying Leicester aren't going to turn anything round. Yeah, it's fair. Josh says good team backer. Curious why you've gone double Newcastle defence, but I think we did that. Big Tips says no Barnes as well. I think no Barnes is bad for them because he's, I think, their top goal scorer, but it does mean we know the system now commit to. Without Barnes, we won't see a 4-3-3. We'll see wing backs. So for those looking at Castagno, that could benefit. But also, I hope it benefits Maddison because we'll see Iheanacho. If we see Iheanacho, I think you're right. That combination could be good. And Wolves' defence hasn't been brilliant.
Away from home, they've kept one clean sheet all season.
Good stat, that. Yeah. I think I might go Maddison over Isak. I'm just slightly worried I see Isak out wide playing with Wilson or even benched because Wilson has his turn.
But you know what's gonna happen. I mean, if you pick Maddison, it's gonna be a tame 0-0 draw. Isak's gonna play number 9.
Yeah.
He's probably gonna be on penalties if Wilson isn't playing, and he's gonna haul for fun.
Yeah. Do you know what?
I can see plenty of bench points this week for a lot of teams. I see the likes of Maddison, Gaston,
Jordan Ayew.
Solanki, Jordan Ayew, Andreas. Even we haven't spoken about Andreas. I think he's a good option as well this week.
Yeah.
Because Leeds are terrible. Andreas would probably be my pick of the Fulham attackers. If you're looking to punt on someone, I don't think Andreas is a bad shout either.
Yeah, I'm the same with Harry Wilson. Just watching Wilson against Everton last week, I'm like, that left foot's going to score goals against Leeds. But yeah, Andreas for the penalty appeal, definitely. Let us know if you're still in the chat, Ali J. World number 4. Let us know if you're in the chat and what your transfers are this week, or a little sneak peek of what your free hit might look like. I'm guessing you're on free hit. Henry Saville, hello, Sav. He says, Gianni and Baka, the best eyebrows in FPL. And I'd agree with that. I would agree with that. We make a good duo, mate. But look, I think that's all we got time for today. If you enjoyed coming on again, mate, it's been lovely to have you. Thank you for stepping in such last minute as well.
It's been a pleasure, Gianni. Thanks for having me. Good luck with the free hit. Good luck to everyone. Hope you are treated to green arrows. And hopefully we're treated to green arrows as well, Gianni.
Yeah, we need green arrows on this channel. I certainly do. I'm just delighted I don't have to watch Ollie Watkins go and score 16 points as a non-owner.
Watch him miss a penalty now.
Yeah. The first and only week I have him. FPL eyebrows says the heroic doses. Love that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're just joining, before you leave, you got to do 3 things. You got to like, you got to subscribe, but you got to go back and watch the full episode because you've missed a cracking hour. I promise you that. And look, if you're interested in deadline streams later, there's still loads of time to watch YouTube content now before all the other YouTubers start their deadline streams. And then finally, if you have been watching the last hour, the one action point for you guys is to go and watch my 15-minute game week preview on my YouTube channel, which I posted a couple of days ago. So go check that out. Give some love to this stream. Thank you very much for the support. He's been Big Man. I've been Gianni, and we've been chasing green arrows.